Hello, and welcome to our webinar, Dell and AMD, Driving Better Business Outcomes, sponsored by Dell Technologies. I'm your host, Katie Boboso from the Channel Company. The explosion of new data created in recent years came to a head in 2020 when digital transformation lunged forward, forcing businesses to rethink their storage and compute options. According to iPad Consulting, 41% of solution providers saw a moderate to large increase in public cloud adoption over the last year, while 46% anticipate an even larger increase in the next year. Your customers increase their workloads and they're in need of better optimization, and Dell servers powered by AMD processors are built to meet the modern needs of customers and channel partners. I'm joined today by David Melendrez, account manager at AMD, Alan Klingerman, chief technology strategist of Power Edge Workloads for North America channels at Dell Technologies, as well as Andrew Nelson, principal architect, cloud and data center transformation at Insight, a Dell channel partner. Welcome, gentlemen. So good to see you again. Some of you for the first time. Let's jump right in and get started with question one. And David, you're going to kick off this webinar. The first question is for you. Of course, for customers' most demanding workloads, AMD Epic has set the performance bar high with its leadership position in the x86 server market. How is AMD Epic positioned in the market to continue this leadership position?
This year, we launched our third generation Epic processor. We call it by a code name of Milan. And this is our new Zen 3 core architecture. And what you're seeing there is you've got higher boost frequencies across the whole stack. It's got a redesigned L3 cache. It's 32 megs. It's accessible by all the cores in a particular die. We've tweaked some latency capabilities to reduce that aspect with clock optimizations. And I mean, there's just a lot of goodness there from an optimization perspective. And that's at the CPU level. And when you look at it, and this is kind of a broad spectrum of workload benchmarks, on average, about a 19% higher IPC, instructions per clock when you compare it to our second gen ROM. So significant there in terms of a gen on gen. When you look at another aspect, and I love the name of this event, they call it Hot Chips. Hot Chips 33 was held in August. And at that event, we shared more details on an upcoming technology we call 3D V-cache. And it's pretty cool because what you're seeing there is this additional cache layer. It's a full 32 meg cache that's going to be pushed on top of the core complex. So it's vertically stacked, not something we've done HBM before and others do HBM, but this is a completely different type of technology and capability. Last but not least in this discussion is, you got to look at the roadmap. And I mean, on the roadmap, it's about our performance capability to execute. And that becomes a critical success factor, not only for ourselves, but for partners like Dell, because they've gone and created unique platforms based on our hitting our milestones. And so, like I said, Gen 3 was launched this April. We'll have Gen 4, again, spoiler alert, another Italian city called Genoa. And it will be the first ever 5 nanometer x86 CPU design that will continue to add features that pretty much keep us in that leadership position. So all in all, when you look at it, performance is going to stand front and center with AMD Epic for some time to come.
Thanks so much, David. Alan, let's move on to you before we talk to Andrew in a moment. Not only is AMD performing strongly in the data center these days, but Dell recently refreshed its Power Edge portfolio to expand its existing AMD Epic offerings. Where do you see AMD Epic technology bring the most customer value? And what type of performance results have you seen from your solutions teams and your customers?
That's a loaded question, Katie, but I love it. We also launched a few platforms, as we called it 17 on the 17th. So back on March 17th, we launched 17 net new or refreshed platforms. So an incredible innovation launch for Dell Technologies within the Power Edge brand that's really allowed us to really take the market by storm this year and really fuel all of our innovation and throughout HCI, CI, and our storage platforms, right? Because at the end of the day, servers are kind of the bedrock of the modern data center. Servers make up everything we do at Dell Technologies, and really is our own innovation engine, right, for us to bring things to market. And we do that really in kind of three key areas of adaptive compute. That's the most important in context of here with AMD, of taking all the great innovations that AMD brings to market with us, wrapping them into an incredible platform for a customer to kind of uncouple and provide innovation, right? To really differentiate themselves in their market, in their industry or vertical, to go do something new using data. I think about really a couple of key areas that David doubled down on that I really see provided us some innovative features to bring to market with to solve these tough problems in these workload areas. It's kind of that advanced MCM design with a larger L3 cache pool, like moving from 16 to 32 meg and giving a larger cache pool to a larger complex was pretty incredible and gave us great performance benefits in some of the areas David already alluded to. And obviously they've been in this journey for quite some time with us of just frankly putting more cores per socket, because it really can provide significant customer value in lots of different ways that drive down, for example, licensing costs across the customer's licensing stack, and address upcoming concerns that we all see in the data center of power and cooling. The other thing from a customer value perspective, here's kind of our point of view, and I'll look at it in three key areas of what we see that Epic really differentiates itself in the market with. Number one, I say competition is great. We said that last time in the last session. It's healthy for the marketplace. It's healthy for our customers. It's healthy for our partners. It's healthy for us. They really are providing kind of the ultimate in price performance in the marketplace available today. So that's number one. The second thing is back to what I said of TDP, performance per watt. They can't be touched. It's incredible. Even the world's largest institutions are really looking at adopting AMD technology where they might have been hesitant in the past because they have concerns of how much they're paying in energy costs. And then the final one is high core count per socket. We already kind of alluded to that, to really provide us the ability to bring optimized single socket systems to market. And then the last area that you kind of touched upon and asked me, Katie, was performance results. What are we seeing within our solution center? We have an HPC and AI innovation lab that sits outside of our headquarters in Austin. In fact, we run a top 500 supercompute in our lab that's available to our customers and partners to run all these workloads and simulations on. So if you have those requirements or have those requests from your customers, please bring them forward. We'll be glad to get you engaged with that team and really show you what we can bring to bear, right, to make this real for your customer. But I think about it in three areas. The first one is weather research and forecasting, obviously pretty big with everything that's happening around the world today in weather. Pretty interesting, a 38% performance increase in that area of WRF. So like we talked about those little IPC gains that David mentioned, now we're going to look at it at a workload level in HPC. WRF is almost 40%. Like that's massive, right? You don't see those type of gains in every generation of CPU. The other one is molecular dynamics. That kind of falls right in line with that IPC, but about a 19% increase. And the last one, as I kind of wrap up here, I think about, this is very interesting and the numbers are huge. Look at everything happening in artificial intelligence and deep learning. Coupled with the right server acceleration technology from various players in the market, coupled with Epic, it's up to a 240 performance increase. By the way, all those three areas that I just mentioned, that's per individual server or node in that HPC cluster. So just incredible performance results that we've seen in our solution centers to make this technology real for our customers and partners.
Let's move on. And now I'd like to take the opportunity to bring in Andrew Nelson. Andrew, first of all, thanks so much for joining the webinar for the first time today. Tell me about Insight. What do you do? What kinds of customers do you serve? And how long have you been a Dell partner?
Hi, yeah, thanks for having me. So I'm Andrew Nelson. I'm a principal architect for Insight Enterprises. Insight Enterprises has been in the industry over 30 years. We were founded in 1988. We've grown through organic growth and acquisitions. I come through an acquisition specifically, but long time industry expertise And we've been a 20 plus year Dell partner. So we've been involved in some fashion with Dell for a long time. We have a pedigree in data center, networking infrastructure, multi-cloud architectures, application development, DevOps, IoT, all that jazz. We're a really, really large integrator, 12,000 teammates right now as it stands, and lots of expertise across almost every topic that Alan and David just touched on in some fashion.
We're going to stay with you for this one. How are you able to scale AMD powered Dell servers to meet your customers' needs?
AMD made a big splash a few years ago getting back into the server market. And the challenge was it was a little bit of a race to see who could come up with the best packaging, the best form factors. Because as an integrator, I'm totally interested in everything the other gentleman just talked about in the speeds and feeds and feature sets. But at the end of the day, I've got to put it in a nice package with a bow on top for my customers and integrate it into a much larger landscape with other players. And if that packaging isn't well thought out and well researched and well tested, I have a really hard time doing my job. So I'll give props to both AMD and Dell, and that they did a really good job early on making sure that Dell had offerings in single socket and dual socket footprints that had different variants with storage heavy or PCI heavy or memory heavy footprints. And the C-series modular infrastructure from Dell is actually a 4x2 chassis that also has AMD goodness built into it. All that helps me in my job to be able to pick and choose different Lego blocks, if you will, that have all of the goodness that was just talked about, the high core counts, high performance. And they actually left me one little tidbit. I'm a huge fan of the high PCI rates. So AMD beat their big competitor to the punch in a lot of the PCI bandwidth, which is big for me because I spend most of my time not so much interested in how much horsepower I can get out of the CPU, but how much network throughput I can drive or how much GPU throughput I can get in a box. And that's where that PCI integration becomes key.
Andrew, thank you so much. We're going to go back to David for now. David, can you give some examples of applications and workloads that take advantage of AMD Epic's unique feature set? And how are these features driving application performance even higher?
Alan and Andrew brought up a good point in the sense of HPC. And then, I mean, that's one workload where AMD really stands out in terms of the actual workload of high performance computing. I mean, it's a big market, HPC is. I mean, it ranges from supercomputers, and really that is an area where AMD has seen tremendous success. But it knocks down. You go into divisional workload level groups and think in terms of automobile manufacturers in that regard, or even to a work group of engineers, and also in terms of smaller group settings at a university and in a college of engineering type of environment. But all of those folks, what they have in common is this intense need for fast computational capability. So when you look at specific applications, and it doesn't have to be anything really highfalutin. I mean, Alan brought up some great ones. You know, I look at kind of that lower level of items that really kind of go on a day-to-day that have a need for performance. So workloads like finite element analysis or computational fluid dynamics. I mean, they take a shine to what Epic offers. And in this case, these are apps where engineers, and it's exactly what Alan was saying, they are doing the innovation at their companies with these applications. They're the ones driving the new market opportunities, and they need tools that help them drive to better business outcomes, but not only better outcomes, faster outcomes. Because the whole idea here is, hey, how can I get to, be time to market and be first, so to speak. So I think of applications, for example, from ANSYS. So think LS Dyna or Fluent. They're very, very common in this environment. And these are applications. They have some pretty unique sensitivities. So core frequency is being one. I mean, higher speeds, better, better, better. L3 cache, the more cache, the better. I look at this as being, hey, how do I fuel that CPU faster? And you look at memory bandwidth as well as PCIe bandwidth. And what is great about Epic for these engineers is they take advantage of all that, and it doesn't have to be, the high 64 core. I mean, the mid of the stack, 24, 32 works great for them because it's like Alan said, performance per core becomes significant. That's important because you need to maximize not only that application speed, but you've got some pretty pricey software here as well. And you have to maximize that investment.
Alan, let's go back to you for this next question. What are some of the primary workloads and applications you are seeing customers adopt AMD Epic for? And what results has Dell Technologies seen within your solutions teams? And how are you taking that to market with your channel partners?
We think about the areas of HPC, artificial intelligence, and high performance data analytics. And then I'm going to put side by side to those dense virtualization and VDI, because all of this adds up to not only core applications that drive a business, right, as mission critical apps, but also the innovation engine, right, really powered in that space of HPC, AI, and HPDA. And what's kind of interesting, I see those areas really kind of morphing and merging into one, right? High performance data analytics, artificial intelligence, really underpinned by a high performance compute architecture. We're doing a lot of validations and efforts throughout Dell Technologies to make this real for our customers. And we do it, number one, at a platform level, as Andy alluded to earlier, so bringing things to market at the platform. The second one is in full ready solutions, right, of being able to bring an appliance-like approach, right, still nimble and agile like Dell Technologies has always done, but a more proven approach to the marketplace. And then finally, just publishing Dell Technology validated designs for a customer to take as a cookbook, right, or our partners to make it real for the customer and do it in a proven way, right? Because we've taken that and baked that cookbook because we've already done this in our HPC and AI innovation lab, for example. So let me just give you 3 examples of what I just walked through. The first one, the PowerEdge 8545 at the platform level, incredible innovation for artificial intelligence, a massive deep learning platform with the best of technologies from AMD and NVIDIA all in one box, but still providing certain benefits that the customers and partners need within the data center, such as no liquid cooling requirements that might be out there from others in that space, standard enterprise rack requirements, so it can fit in a standard rack. I don't have to have this one-off rack to fit these servers. And advanced manageability, because I do this at scale. If I'm trying to emulate the human brain, it's going to take a lot more than one XE8545. It might take a pod of 16 of them. And then we think about it in the area of ready systems. This is where we're trying to take HPC and make it ready for the masses. So how do I get that not just to the largest organizations that have top 500 supercompute devices out there today, but how do I bring that innovation down to even all the way down to small businesses, right? And we accomplish that in that ready solution blueprint. Think about it as a tested, validated, and supported solution that we bring together to make it easy for a customer to start consuming HPC. Roll it off of a shock pallet, roll it into the data center, and start firing jobs at it, right? Make it that simple. And really focused on specific applications based on the verticals and optimized for those verticals that the customer might be trying to run. And then the final one, we talk about VDI and dense virtualization. I'm gonna quadruple click on everything we said. That's that realm of single socket optimized 2-socket offerings that we have within PowerEdge and our dedicated single socket systems that we have, right? We have 6 platforms that are dedicated to AMD Epic today.
Thank you so much. Andrew, let's go back to you for this next question. And it's getting away a little bit more from the actual tech side and talking more about support, which is very important to you as a partner. So tell me, what support does Dell provide your business as a partner in relation to Dell EMC PowerEdge servers powered by AMD Epic processors?
We get a lot of sales training and sales interaction to understand these new offerings. We also get a big investment in lab gear. So we're a very engineering centric organization at Insight. We like to kick it, feel it, touch it in our labs and integrate it into everything that we've been talking about. So we have a big investment, a joint investment between Insight and Dell to make sure that we have a lot of this gear in our labs connected to PowerStore, connected over 100 gig networking, to be able to both test client workloads and to educate ourselves to be much more articulate around these. We get a lot of product expertise and tooling that Dell provides us through the partner engagements. So I've got a lot of sizers and workload information, and Alan was dancing around vertical specific options. We have a lot of vertical specific training that comes into these conversations, and the building blocks are the same, but the way that you message those verticals is different. Dell has a lot of expertise around that they work with our vertical teams on. And then two other things that are really important to me. So Insight is known for having our one-call support business. And that's a big deal to us, to be able to take first call support and triage multi-vendor, multifaceted solutions. Dell has made a big investment with Insight to engage in that one call business and allow us to augment their support offerings. And then I have a unique role that's almost CTO-like. I actually get to meet with a lot of the product management on a regular basis with Dell around roadmap. And that actually helps me understand what's coming. So the conversations that we've been having around new chips making it to market and new platforms coming to market, that helps us be more competitive in the market and the partner space to understand what Dell's working on, what form factors are coming, what features are being implemented, and how.
David, due to the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic, business VDI deployments increased significantly in the last 18 months. What benefits does AMD Epic provide to the VDI-based environment?
Epic absolutely is a core density benefit. I mean, up to 64 cores per processor. So having that number of cores, being able to distribute that over a number of users, whether it's in that single socket server, or if you've got dual socket, or for that matter, even the C-series multi-node, you've got that capability of provisioning that server without really over provisioning it in terms of the cores and threads. Definitely a benefit there. And then if you look at the apps, what are most people running? A lot of Office apps, for example. They don't necessarily take advantage of the multi-core. I mean, they're single core, single thread type of applications, but having that multi-thread capability is significant. So when you start to look at, well, where do I go? What is that sweet spot? Sometimes people think that sweet spot's really in the 32 core place. So we have something in multiple capabilities for that type of need. And then as you expand these users, what you're beginning to also see, which is becoming even more significant, is the capability of virtual GPU. So not only does it have the ability to help you now, but you're future-proofing for your VDI deployments in the future. You know, so this situation for me, Alan talked about some of the platforms. I think of like a PowerEdge R7525. Talk about balanced configuration. I mean, you can have the capability of CPU, dual socket, 128 core, 6, I think, Alan, correct me if I'm wrong, GPUs that enable that capability for the vGPU aspect. So there's scalability, there's density, and you have that capability to allocate cores and GPUs to a number of users. You know, but performance is great. We talked about it earlier, but there's also a need for security. How do I really protect the data that's going back and forth? And when you look at what Epic offers for this environment, you can secure the memory that's on that system, that server system, by encrypting it. And if you do get into a virtual environment and running this in this whole kit and caboodle in a VMware scenario, you have that ability to virtualize those individual VMs too.
Andrew, I actually really want to stay on this topic and move on to you with a partner perspective for this, because obviously the COVID-19 pandemic has forced us all to work from different environments. I'm sure that you've got clients who are working from everywhere and anywhere. How do Dell servers powered by AMD processors provide your customers with a better end user experience? And why is this so critical to your business?
VDI has been a big reinvigoration for a lot of our clients over the last couple of years for all of these reasons. On premises, we had a lot of customers that, how do I double or triple this footprint quickly? And the punchline to that was, I want to double or triple the horsepower or the performance of the environment without necessarily having to put in, 8 times the licensing or 8 times the footprint or 8 times the power. So Epic was epic to play into that pun for those use cases. We saw a lot of customers that did a refresh or a tech refresh and kept the same footprint, the same manageability with, like David said, a lot more core density, a lot more GPU density. The part that's big for us too is with Windows, you pretty much need GPU offload, regardless of whether you're doing any sort of knowledge work. The operating system experience almost demands it. And so the challenge we run into is, how do I get enough GPU memory and GPU functionality for those virtual GPUs in the right ratio to cores in the VDI environment. And this is where Dell and AMD working together on that 6 GPU box with multiple cores. I've actually sold that specific use case to a couple customers. It's a very nice ratio of GPU horsepower to CPU. But I'm also going to kind of contradict them briefly too, is I'm not big on remote work going forward. I'm interested in hybrid work. And this is actually a bigger curveball. So I've got customers that are going to work from remote 2 to 3 days a week and then work in the office 2-3 days a week. And I know we're talking about Epic server processors right now, but AMD has been absolutely outstanding on the laptop desktop market as well. I'm staring at a couple Ryzen processors on my desk right now. That becomes an interesting conversation in that remote work, as I need dense core count and density in the VDI farm, but I also may have CAD CAM users that may want to have horsepower on their laptop that they can take home. And then how do I move the data back and forth and sync the data? And there's ways to do that with the different VDI technology to lever all of that.
Alan, going back to you for this question, I have heard a lot about Dell and your workforce transformation efforts. Can you tell me a little bit about that and what AMD Epic and PowerEdge provide to help make that a reality for your customers?
Back to what Andrew said there, like just look at our Q1 and Q2 results because of this hybrid workplace. Like the growth of the PC is real, but I also see it, imagine this, 3 areas and 3 key technologies of what are we doing around the space. The first one, and thank you, Andrew, and thank you, David, for mentioning the platforms. The 7525 is my favorite for VDI. And when I think about that, it is about enabling GPUs across the entire family of server products wherever we can, right? There are always going to be limitations based on specific price bands, form factors, slots or bays available in a specific configuration, but wherever we can fit them, we're enabling GPUs throughout entire systems for all of the workloads that we just talked about, as well as VDI, because we start thinking about those different personas, just like Andrew alluded to, like think about those heavy graphical users. Those were always the hardest to touch. In fact, I go back to my days as a partner. I was doing this a long time ago with customers and in the realm of education to help them to bring CAD CAM environments and labs, for example, to their students in a remote basis. And it requires GPUs. And there's different types of GPUs for those different types of personas. So enabling those is extremely key. The second thing is for that HPC and AI use cases. How do I do that remotely, right? That's more tough. Here's what I'd say. That's actually kind of an easier spot. That's where cloud adoption to what I'd say fail cheaply in the cloud, where I'm building out a model or a theory in artificial intelligence to go solve a business problem. Hey, let's go, take that and build that in test dev in the cloud. But then when I'm going to take it and move it to inference in production, I'm probably going to bring it on-prem. And we just announced something super exciting that AMD participates in with something called the NVIDIA Artificial Intelligence for Enterprise. It's a way of taking those GPUs and allowing it to scale across technologies that we're already familiar with. So imagine being able to virtualize the GPUs with no impact to performance, just like we've done with CPUs. We now have a baseline technology so that GPUs can go everywhere in the customer's data center using this proven, tested, validated, supported solution. So super excited to bring that one to market. We just launched it. And then finally, we think about security at the edge, being able to utilize tools and technologies we have like our VEP or virtual edge platform. Imagine to be able to have the ability to secure all of those people that are trying to provide hybrid remote access when they're at home, right? How do I do that? How do I ensure that all those consumer routers and devices are secure? I provide them technology like a VEP.
David, due to the high levels of technical debt in most companies, IT transformation and modernization is driving enterprise data centers towards hyper-converged infrastructure for its simplicity and its scale. How are AMD and Dell teaming up to support customers' implementations of HCI?
What I love about our partnership with Dell is, we have done some great innovation at the CPU level. And Dell has taken that CPU and they have innovated at a lot of unique platform designs to drive IT transformation, be it the purpose-built single socket servers, even the new XE8545. But what is really interesting is, yes, ma'am, we are working together in the HPC space. We do offer solutions, and they're just like all HPC type of environments, they're easy to deploy, they're easy to manage, they scale quite nicely. And in Alan's vernacular, we got 3 solutions to talk about. On the VxRail side, a mix. There's the E series 665, there's the P series 675. So you have this capability of, everyday type of use or performance use. If you're a Microsoft shop, we will be able to offer the Azure Stack HCI appliance, which is based on which is based on a rack mount R6515. And if you are a Nutanix, hey, we can help you in that regard as well, because Dell EMC XE Core XE6515, boy, that is a mouthful. So across the board, there is this trifecta of platforms out there, not to mention vSAN ready nodes. So we're more than just a pretty face of 6 platforms. There is definitely an HCI element here. And what's nice is, our 2nd gen and our 3rd gen platforms, they're still available in all of these, so you can go single socket, you can go dual socket. And the nice thing in HCI, the benefit that's available in PowerEdge standalone servers is the same that you get in the HCI solutions. Compute performance, memory bandwidth, IO, security, and I keep always talking about performance, value, security. It's a bundled trifecta that I think is awesome. Performance is all capitals and no periods. And that's what AMD with Dell bring to the table.
Alan, Dell Technologies is leading the HCI category according to Gartner, as well as compute. Can you tell us a little bit about Dell's HCI strategy and where AMD Epic fits into it?
VxRail is what's really dominating the market at this point. And when we think about that, really it's around those 2 key areas that David already highlighted, VxRail and vSAN ready nodes. And it's really about providing, regardless of which one of those 2 routes you take, a tested, validated, and supported platform and automating processes for customers. And when we talk about, IT transformation, it is all about really kind of the 3 phases of modernizing the infrastructure, of utilizing technologies we described and the hyper-converged space and, an all flash-based technology using all the great things we've already talked about through this entire session. Automating the process. And then really the last step is the hardest piece. And this is where, our partners really help our customers in this phase as transformation, right? So it's really transforming and helping them take advantage of the technologies in place and the automation to make it real for a customer. And then if I look forward, right, it's not just about that automation at the HCI layer, but starting to go beyond that, of things like VMware Cloud Foundation and really providing automation all the way through the network, right? And really being able to take advantage of technologies such as NSX. And then we start thinking about newer technologies, and I'll give you this one and kind of where we'll leave it here, is think about the future looks, like what's happening in this space. I'm super excited about a brand new project some of you might have heard about last year, and it's been a little quiet, something called Project Monterey. This is something using what they call DPUs, or data processing units. Think about it as a CPU and NIC. So you probably heard 2 categories, smart NICs, and now this new category of DPUs. Smart NICs are still a NIC, right, with processing capability in it. In the case of a DPU, it's actually a separate processor with its own NIC, and it can be assigned tasks to go do, right? Just like offloading things in a GPU. So imagine being able, for example, to get full composability by loading ESXi on the DPU. So now I can not only provide great native characteristics for virtual machines, and certainly for Kubernetes with the Tanzu Kubernetes grid, but now for bare metal. Now I've got a full single control plane for all environments, and there's no more single silos for the customer to have to manage. Like, this is really going to decouple how the data center is designed in the future. And I think it'll help us with some of these power and cooling challenges that I alluded to earlier. AMD is intrinsic throughout every single one of these offerings, just like David mentioned, and called out every single one of my products. I still can't believe that David knows my product line that well. Thank you for that, David. So, it's really important to take all these great innovations from the merchant silicon vendors and make it real for our customers. And by the way, we're looking at AMD to expand its presence throughout our entire data center offering. I think the future's so bright. I hate to say this. I got to wear shades.
Wow.
Andrew, my very last question is for you. With everything we've talked about today and everything to consider in your partnership with Dell and working with Dell and AMD, how are you able to remain competitive in the market and grow Insight thanks to Dell and AMD technology?
Dell was an early adopter of AMD, and the competition that AMD brings into the market, the packaging that Dell brings, the competition AMD brings, that really helps us competitively to be able to come up with variations on a theme or a couple different options for a customer, or to be able to show them that, hey, we could change the form factor, change the footprint, the density. That's a big one for us. The fact that all those form factors exist that David plugged, but they're all baked and supported by Dell with direct functionality and open manage and all that goodness. Customers are very receptive to that. The other one that I'll plug is we get good visibility into supply chain with Dell. That's super crucial right now. It's a pain point for everybody listening to this. So frequently, we're looking at all those different options and form factors and figuring out, I can ship this by December. Oh, this one's going to be out till February. We've got a couple other compute partners we work with that don't give us that good a view into supply chain.
Andrew, Alan, David, thank you all so much for joining me today. And thank you at home for watching our webinar, Dell and AMD, Driving Better Business Outcomes. I'm Katie Bavoso. Take care.